says live on.
Okay, here we are. I'm going live right now.
Yay.
Okay, fun.
All right, thank you so much.
No problem.
Welcome, everybody. I'm going to let all the kids in then.
Excellent.
All right, here they come. Welcome, everybody.
Hi, everyone. Really fun.
Welcome.
Okay,
Hi,
here we are. I'm going
everyone.
live right now.
All right, so I'm going to minimize this, but we are live on YouTube, and we're here today with local author Catherine Factor. She's excited to see all of you, and welcome to all the ISB students who are joining. I'm letting you all in, and remember today we're going to have chat available, but it's just going to be to me as the host so that I can ask questions when it's appropriate for the presentation. And we are going to get to participate today using some of the reaction buttons. And so I'm so glad you're all here, and I hope we have a good experience with this talk.
Hi, everyone. I'm Catherine Factor, and I am the author of 3 Choose Your Own Adventure books. I'll just show you them so you can kind of get a sense. Some of you hopefully have read this kind of book, which is called interactive fiction, which means you make choices as you go. So you play the leading role. You are the main character in this book. So this one came out 2 years ago, in which you play a dancer whose best friend has gotten kidnapped. And in this one, you are Harry Houdini. I should say that all these books are part of the Choose Your Own Adventure Spy series. So in these, you basically learn spying skills or have to spy. And Houdini was a famous magician about 100 years ago. And he may have spied for both the US and for England. But there's all sorts of fun and magic tricks in here that you participate in as Houdini. And then my new book, Spy for Cleopatra, just came out. And this is the book I'm going to be reading from today. So hopefully some of you know about ancient Egypt or Cleopatra, or maybe even her enemies in Rome. And so this book has some pretty wild adventures in it, including time travel. So we'll see what happens when we get to this reading. We're just gonna let people join a little bit. And what else can I tell you? I should say that by the time, I've always loved writing, I've always loved storytelling. I have a formal training in creative writing and poetry, especially poetry is my first love. And I started writing stories and poems pretty seriously by the time I was your age. And I had a really great teacher in junior high that got some of my poems published and taught us different types of poetry. And that sort of launched my, I guess, lifelong love of language. And it's been quite a journey. So I'm so excited to be here, and I'm happy to answer questions at the end of our little reading session. So what do you think? Should we get started? All right.
I'm just going to make a couple announcements now that we're all here. Welcome, everybody. If you didn't hear already, we have Catherine Factor, the local art author, who's going to join us. And I have everybody on mute because she's going to be our speaker today. It's like she's in the gym and we're all watching. And instead of having a chat open, you can have your chat go directly to me, and then I can ask those questions for you when it's a question and answer time. So just sit back and relax. We are live on YouTube, so feel free if you want to turn your screen off and just relax and enjoy, or if you have your screen on, just know that it's also being streamed to YouTube. So it's exciting to have her here with us. You can put her on speaker view so you can see her just as if she was in a presentation at school. Thank you so much.
And thank you. Thanks for hosting and thanks for having me. All right, let's get started with Choose Your Own Adventure, Spies, Spy for Cleopatra. Tonight's the night, you think to yourself. Finally, I will sneak into the great library. You look over an open papyrus scroll you're copying from a large desk in front of you. You glance up. One of the guards catches your eye and you look back at your work. As soon as I finish, I can begin my plan. You continue to scribble. You are a young Egyptian working in the northern port city of Alexandria. The year is 390 AD. Your hometown is famous for trading and commerce, but is even more famous for its great library. You copy scrolls for export at a library in the Serapeum, a temple dedicated to the god Serapis. Once in a great while, you get to see a sacred text, and those chill your bones with mystery. But mostly you copy histories, Plato's teachings, Homer's poems, and Euripides' plays. And I'm gonna hold up the illustrations and probably share a screen later, but just this will make it a little bit easier. These illustrations are by a Portland artist, Gabor Utomo. So here you are copying your scrolls. People visit Alexandria to shop in bulk for fabrics, spices, metals, gems, perfumes, and flour. And some will even take back for hundreds of years. Scholars document thousands of rare scrolls were lost. What remains today is locked up in secret. Some scrolls that survived were taken here to the Serapeum, to what your boss Hypatia calls the daughter library. Everyone speculates about what is left behind in the great library, and you are determined to actually find out tonight. Your eye wanders again, and this time you catch the eye of Hypatia herself. She frowns and starts in your direction. Uh-oh. But just then, a philosopher stops by the annex. Hypatia smiles broadly and swoops over to greet him. Hypatia turns back to the room filled with scribes like you and claps her hands for attention. I am giving you all the day off early so you can attend the holiday. Io Saturnalia. Everyone shall revel, no matter if you are rich or poor. The room seems to exhale at once. Your fellow scribes put down their quills and stretch their backs. Some rub a crick in their elbows or necks. Hypatia hurries into her office. The other scribes roll up scroll after scroll, sealing up their precious inks carefully before leaving to celebrate. And as you had hoped, you are now alone. You wait a few more minutes before slinking off to the supply chamber. You borrow a Serapeum axe, rope, and torch. The great library, along with whatever ideas are preserved inside, will soon be mine, you think. Once outside, music and revelry ring out in the streets. You leave the old Egyptian quarter and walk along the harbor. It's always filled with sphinxes, musicians, and food sellers, but tonight it's extra noisy and busy. Saturnalia is a Roman celebration of the return of the light. There are torches and lit candles everywhere. However, because of your mission, you must stay invisible. You put your head down and merge into the wild crowd. Hopefully no one notices me. The Romans, who have ruled Egypt for hundreds of years, don't take well to locals breaking and entering. You put your head down and merge into the wild crowd. You dodge and weave through the throng and head toward the royal quarter where the great library sits. You arrive almost an hour later, sweating from your efforts. You scout the gardens and the abandoned zoo, which was once the center of study for an animal anatomy. It appears empty. You take one last look over your shoulder. You jump over the bushes and form a barrier. You slide noiselessly past statues of the muses and gods. You set your tools down and strap on your ropes, throwing up your hood. You swing the rope and manage to land the hook into the center of the atrium scaffolding. You scale the wall, hoist yourself over, and sneakily shimmy down the rope. After you descend and hop off the knot, you light a small torch so you can see. Walking around, you see a dining room for casual discussions, a reading room, and lecture halls. In the Hall of Muses, endless shelves should hold the main collection of books, but things are dilapidated. You're saddened by half-empty shelves. Nooks are still labeled lyric, poetry, history, law, plays, medicine, natural science, and mathematics. You see a plaque and dust it off. The place of the cure of the soul. Yes, your heart swells. Learning is so rewarding, it can really float your spirit. So there you are, breaking into the old great library. Down a few corridors, you find a large room with stars painted on its ceiling. Something gleams in the corner. You hold your torch closer. It is a large, exquisite circular machine. There are gold discs and bronze gears surrounded by a zodiac of planets. Ah, this is what they were hiding, you think. You feel so devious and special to behold as such a secret contraption. What are you doing here? A voice says. A towering woman in a men's toga approaches you. Don't you dare touch that. She steps into the light of your torch. It's your boss, Hypatia. Okay, and so here is what you've discovered. There's a drawing of it. I hope to be a scholar, so I'm here to learn, you blurt out as she approaches, using her own torch to look at your face. I know who you are. You are one of my scribes. Hello, Hypatia. What is that? You ask, gesturing at the machine. This is the astrolabe. It means catcher of the stars. It can determine time, day, latitude, and height of mountains. But right now I have it prepared to travel through time. What? Time travel? You are stunned. I can't risk any gossip, so I'm going to send you to the lighthouse, the Pharos of Alexandria, where you will be in charge of confiscating books off incoming ships for us. You can see I have a lot of work to do here to rebuild this place. The Pharos lighthouse is far from here, and it's so important. I mean, I'm just young and I don't have any experience. Well, you look like a fine thief to me. I'm trusting you with important works. And if you do this, it'll be the first step to train you to be a royal writer one day. You frown with confusion. This could help your career, but you might feel isolated on the island of Pharos. I don't know, you say. Well, Hypatia looks at you. Indeed, there is another option. See that night sky out there? I know everything about it, even how to use the arrangement of planets to travel through time. But the time traveler cannot be me. The mission is important. I need to end a curse. A curse? That sounds like superstition. Think what you want, what you like about superstitions. This is the curse of Rome. All of Alexandria, all of this world is threatened. The library is almost gone, as you can see, she says, gesturing at the sagging shelves. I fear even my work, it may never help it be repaired. As the library suffers, the collection withers, and wisdom, the liberation that learning offers, will dissolve. The muses will be upset. The gods will call disorder. Discord will create unrest in the citizens, and mobs will come. And even the Serapeum, where we work, will be destroyed. Earthquakes will throw our buildings underwater. Oh no, our poor, beautiful city and all it stands for, you say, staring at the scrolls. But I believe the astrolabe could be used to save the original library. The more knowledge that's shared, the more equal people can be. For without wisdom, we fall prey to the tyranny of power-hungry leaders. Where would I go to stop the curse, you ask? Hypatia stares down at you with urgency. Why, back to the era of the great library, before Rome controlled us. You'll become a spy against the Romans, but you must decide immediately. The stars are perfectly aligned tonight. Okay, So now we're going to get to a choice. Let's see, how do we want to do this, with a poll or hand raising?
Yeah, I think
Elisa?
I think a good way to do it, everybody has a reaction button. So do you have two choices for them?
Yeah, and we can make it, yeah, here are your choices.
Okay,
Okay, if you agree to are you going to agree to travel back in time and spy to save the Great Library? What Hypatia is like offering you, but she's also saying you could just stay here and work at the Pharos Lighthouse.
okay.
So basically it's a yes or no. Yes, are you going to travel back in time? Or no, you're not going to travel back in time.
Okay.
They
So-
both could have risks.
Right. Students are telling me that they don't see a reaction option. And so I see them raising their hand, which is good. So raising their hand, is that meaning that you want to go forward?
You mean go forward by going back in time?
They all are saying Rome must succeed.
Rome must succeed.
Yeah. So somebody who's raising your hand right now, type
Succeed like SECED, like, or SUCEED.
so go back in time is the vote. Go back in time.
Raise your hand if we're going back in time.
It looks like there's lots of hands raised.
I mean, you guys trust this machine, I guess? Okay. In the book, we're going to turn to page 13. Well, yeah. Well, all right. Y'all can stop voting for now because we're definitely going back in time if it works. Okay. Here we go. Well, of course I want to travel back in time. You tell Hypatia, filled with bravery and curiosity. You inspect the astrolabe. No matter what angle you look at, it's a wonderment to behold. When my father first showed me this machine, Hypatia says, wheeling it down to the atrium, I thought it was a tool he invented for measuring planets. But I've learned about it from the world's greatest astronomers, and now I've dedicated my entire life to the astrolabe. Let's see now, Hypatia muses, yanking a pulley that opens the ceiling completely. You look up with wonder at the Milky Way. Egyptians believe the Nile and the Milky Way are connected. Hypatia fiddles with a stack of discs beneath the sea of the astrolabe and spins the sphere around it. If I just adjust the... I see it, you interrupt. The curved part is path of the planets and the constellations of the Milky Way. Beneath it, these latitude plates align with where we are in Earth and where we were back then. You are right. Hypatia clicks in the contraption into the setup she wants and sits back with a smile. She gestures for you to sit in the small seat connected to the device. For time is but a celestial dance performed by the moon, the sun, the planet, she adds. Suddenly sparkles shoot off of the like twinkling stars as Hypatia taps on the zodiac symbols in a careful order. You are in total awe. When am I leaving? You ask. Now, of course. Where am I going? To Egypt hundreds of years ago to help Cleopatra. Forces are battling all around her, ones that encourage the curse. And you are spry, smart, and have fluidity to move undetected. Do not admit you are from the future. She cannot know about the astrolabe or she will want it. Okay, I can keep secrets, but wasn't Cleopatra dangerous? Cleopatra was royalty, and with that comes complexity, Hypatia sighs. She died doing whatever she could to save her country from Roman rule. But yeah, she's from a notoriously wicked family. But history says she was wrong and evil and powerful. You retort, intimidated. Whose history? Remember, those who wrote history often did so for their own gain. Cleopatra ultimately aligned with Rome in order to save Egypt, but she was also a great scholar for philosophy, math, medicine, magic, and languages. Yeah, the mission is dangerous, but you know what is more dangerous? The curse. You're all set, she says, and you look at her with terror. Those are the only instructions you get? How do I work it? How do I get back? you ask. You will need to remember your astronomy. Take this, Cleopatra says, pressing the gold Ankh pendant she wears every day into your hands. The Ankh is said to have connections to Isis, the goddess of magic and the moon. But it's your favorite. Yes, it's a protective amulet. She puts a warm hand on your back, and it's also the key to the astrolabe. Now be brave. You will be the perfect spy helper. The fire must be thwarted, you say, when she explains how Caesar caused a siege to Alexandria and burned boats in the harbor, which spread fire to the library campus and scorched sacred texts that are lost forever. Exactly. If you can save the Great Library, you will return home to a more vibrant place. You agree. Your eyes widen and you take a big breath. You are ready for adventure. Okay, so then Hypatia starts the machine, and there's whirring and glowing discs, and the ruler spin, and you use the Ankh to turn it off up, and you push it and pray to the gods, and then this air starts swirling around the machine, and you are off, but you realize that now you are in control of your own destiny in the machine. So now we're gonna have another choice, and I'll read you the choices, then we'll turn it into another yes or no. So for yes, you'll raise your hands. Okay. So now that you are in flight, do you continue to travel to Cleopatra's time as you agreed, as Hypatia, your boss, wants? Or do you change to another route in time and be rebellious? Okay. So we're going to raise our hands if yes, we should just stay on the mission and travel back to Cleopatra, which is about 450 years from where you are now, in 400 AD. And we're going to go back, hopefully, to about 48 BC, before Christ. So we'll see how far we can actually get. Or do you want to mess with the machine and see if you can go somewhere else? So, seen a lot of hand raises, but how will we know, if people aren't raising their hands? Hopefully Alicia can see.
Yeah, I can see there's actually a lot more not raised hands than raised hands right now.
Okay, I'll give it another minute.
Okay. And could you just repeat or hold up the copy of the book? I've had some questions about what the copy is, so I got the
Yes.
Powell's link.
Here we go. Yes. So here's Spy for Cleopatra. You can order it at Powell's. It's actually really awesome for me if you ask in Powell's, if you go in there and you ask for it, and then that lets them know that they should keep copies around. And they probably have some of my other books there. Here's the other. Now they're kind of all, to me, they're sort of all friends, siblings, friends together.
Great. Okay. I'm getting in the chat that people want to mess with the machine.
All right.
And
I like this means that you guys think for yourselves, I guess, or are rebellious. Let's see what happens. This may be your only chance to travel in time anywhere you want to go. And you're the one traveling. You may as well control your fate. You spin a disc beneath you that points to the planets. The astrolabe jerks and cruises through the cosmos, eventually landing in water. You crawl out of the astrolabe as it bobs in the double harbor near the coast of what looks like Alexandria, but there is no lighthouse. Instead, there are large buildings and layers and a fort with a square base. You swim ashore and scramble up the crags. The building has a plaque that reads Fortress of Quakeby, and you recognize old chunks of the Pharos lighthouse in its structure. Passing the very crowded beaches, you notice signs with pictures of diving tours, visiting the palace you used to know. There are fast-moving cars, or there are fast-moving chariots with more wheels and gas and a gas emitting from them. You can see the streets look similar, but they have different names. The ancient Canopic Way is now called Sharia Tariq al-Horia. You see an enormous, strange looking building where the library once was. You are in the future. Okay, choice. So you've landed like in modern day Alexandria now. Are you going to, you have two choices. You could enter the building that looks like a modern library, which you're not sure what that even is, but it is where the great library used to be. Or you can decide to go diving to search for your old home.
Okay.
So let's
If you want to go diving, let's raise your hand if you want to go diving.
You want to go because you recognize like the ruins from your old life are underwater. And this is actually really true in Alexandria today. We don't have a lot of the ruins there. We have like many parts did fall underwater so far. All right.
Really great chats about different history. People are coming up with other branches of history that they've studied around this topic. People are getting other ideas about other stories you could write and a couple of questions for later. So good job interacting in that way in the chat. It looks like we're getting lots of hands raised. And a couple people.
So
yes.
What did we say? Are the hands raised?
It looks like there's actually more not hands raised. And we said the hands raised meant
library. Okay. Yeah, that would be going into the library. So we're going to go diving.
I think the library was the choice because I said hands up was the diving and I see more library votes.
Oh, more library votes. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
You approach the gargantuan building that curves up toward the sun, reflecting beautiful colors on its glass panels. Alphabets from every known language are inscribed into panels of granite on its outer walls. The entryway reads, Biblioteca Alexandrina. It is indeed a library. You enter with excitement, but quickly feel out of place in your wet, torn toga. The people around you wear complicated clothing. No one notices you. They're so busy learning, noses buried in their books, millions of books. There's a planetarium, a conference center, maps, and manuscripts. You are so happy. Maybe they will hire you to spend your days the way you did in your life before, with preserving writing for people in the future to read and learn from. The end. All right. So should we go back to a choice? Let's do that. Well, like, I think let's do this. Have you guys kind of read these before? Like you can either start all the way over or you can just kind of like go back to a previous choice. So maybe if some of you want to throw some ideas into the chat, like, do you want to go all the way back to Cleopatra? Do you want to choose to go diving? Do you want to?
A couple people saying yes, go back and dive. Yeah. A bunch
okay, yeah, whatever we find first, go diving. Okay.
Go dive.
I'll join the dive tour. I know what's under the water. You tell the guide, who assumes you must be a professional. Earthquakes and the ravage of time have sent Alexandria's sphinxes, buildings, and the Pharos lighthouse underwater. The guide explains while your group swims past the ruins. Indeed, you recognize parts of the foundation, columns, and a tower. You're so thrilled to connect with your past that you swim deeper, looking for more. You might be able to pick up some relics or clues to take back to the astrolabe. But you do not know how to use the air technology in your diving suit. You meet your end in what would have been your home all of your life, but is now a watery grave. The end. All right, so now you guys kind of know how these books work. And I think we have about 5. Yeah, it did take a mad turn. I know, and you never know, you guys, like, sometimes you think you're making a good choice. And it like, this is true with life, right? Like sometimes you think you're making a good choice, or maybe you're following the crowd or doing what other people do, or they think is a good choice. and it isn't necessarily. So I can answer some questions. I have
Yeah, we've got a couple questions I can read for you. One is, the very first one was, Paige asked, what is the process for making a choose your own adventure book?
it's a difficult, complex process. And it involves so these like all involved a lot of research, and like this was, thousands of years ago. These two both take place about 100 years ago, around World War I. So it's like a lot of research, and the research gives me the ideas, because these do have actually have history, factual history in them, but they also have fantasy. So then I have to do a lot of creative imagining, and I make a lot of notes, and then I have to make outlines that I call butterfly outlines. So like, here's your first choice, in the middle, and then have you ever, like a bubble map or an outline, and then I go this way, like branches that go this way with this choice, and branches that go that way with that choice. And then you also have to keep track of all the pages that you've used, because you turn to different pages in the book. So it's fun, but it also is like, can get very difficult. And I sometimes teach this, I can teach you guys how to do it. And I sometimes give workshops in it or teach at Saturday Academy. So it's pretty fun to try on your own.
Yeah, and similarly, a couple people said, how did you choose and know that you wanted to write these types of books? And someone else said, how did you decide you wanted to write in this genre? So the style or the genre of historical fiction.
Well, I really like history, but I also like fantasy and sci-fi. And I just think that in some ways it's easier, because you can make stuff up, and then if you need to, you can just end it. Whereas with a regular novel, you have to go from the very beginning to the very end in one continuous linear arc. And I'm more a fan of cyclical narratives. Native American cultures use a cyclical narrative when they're storytelling. I like poetry so much, where you don't always have to make sense, or you have poetic license. And so what I would do even though I didn't design the book, I would kind of think of each page, like each little piece of action, as a separate poem. So, that way, each little page and ending kind of felt like, I guess, like writing poems, which was something I was more familiar with. But I'm, as an artist, I like stuff that plays with genre, that plays with our notions of how things should be.
Great. And what motivated you to start to become an author and write books? And what was your first book?
So I think what motivated me was actually reading these books in the 4th and 5th grade and 6th grade, like reading them as a kid. They were around back then. They've been around the whole time, and they kind of grew up and influenced video games. And I just was a kid. I never imagined I would end up writing one, but the company, you can go to cyoa.com. I'll put it in the chat and you can share it. They asked me to write these. So this was my first book, in which you play a woman that maybe was a spy in World War I, Mata Hari. And she lived a really bold, courageous life with a lot of travel. And that really interested me, like how a woman could live on her own 100 years ago. And she even took like the Orient Express. She had a lot of adventures and a lot of problems. I just really was fascinated by these people's lives also. And I also have it's not my only books, like I have a poetry book coming out in the fall, and I'm starting to think about a bigger YA novel, like a longer novel in a more normal novel style. But hopefully that won't bore me to write that way.
That's good. Well, it sounds like there's some people who have ideas for your next story. Someone said, making a story where people from the future time travel back, but then the Egyptian people go to the future. And so people are kind of brainstorming. And then somebody also asked, like, what advice would you give for writing books? So some of the people who have great ideas that they're coming up with, another student keeps typing me a whole bunch of awesome history that he knows. He could really turn that into a book like you're talking about. So what tips?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you love something, just start writing, and it doesn't have to be perfect. And, honestly, it can take a long time to perfect the craft of writing, just like anything, like playing piano. You have to put in thousands of hours, but you have to just start and then maybe find a mentor, find a teacher, find a coach. A lot of times in school, I think we don't get enough creative writing. So that's why I like to do these visits, and I work with students that want to learn more about writing or publishing. And I've helped students make their own books, which is really fun. And now there's so many ways to make your own book. And we also I can send it on, we have like digital copies, so you can try to plug in your own story and it will create a choose your own adventure like for you. And I know a lot of you guys are really savvy, so you can figure out, how to write these. But you basically need a good setting and a good mission, like something has to be happening that the reader has to choose.
Right. Somebody said that doing like a mystery choose your own adventure, or
oh yeah,
escaping and coming from the past to help the future. So lots of time travel ideas, lots of other ideas. We are just a few minutes over the time that she said she would be here. I'm happy to keep this open for just a couple more minutes if that's okay with you, Catherine, until
actually, I'd like to play you guys a 1-minute book trailer. So you can see that my friend helped me create this, and it's like a really fun quick way to inform people about the book. But I hope it inspires you guys to maybe do your own creative projects, even just with like really short stories or poems. You can make poem videos. So let's just take a look at this while people let's share this. Here we go. Is this it? All right. Let's see if I can get
This book is different from other books. You and you alone are in charge of what happens in the story.
Wait, I'm gonna see if I can get the full screen. Here we go.
Different from other books. You and you alone are in charge of what happens in the story. You are living in the 4th century in Alexandria, Egypt. You study and work as a scribe for Hypatia, a famous philosopher and astronomer. Before Julius Caesar burned the great library of Alexandria, this was the center of all the world's knowledge. Hypatia orders you back in time. Will you accept her mission and agree to become a spy for Cleopatra? Stop Caesar, travel the Nile River, and explore the mysteries of Egyptian mythology, all without becoming lost in time, or worse, mummified. But don't despair. At any time, you can go back and make another choice and alter the path of your fate, and maybe even history.
Isn't that fun?
That's great. So you said that a friend of yours helped you to create that digital marketing. So now the next step after you've written your book, what kind of marketing and sharing things do you do? And students, I see some questions about, do you go back to advisory? I don't believe so. This was your advisory presentation today. So when you are finished asking your questions and you're ready, you're welcome to sign off, and we'll see you next week in advisory. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, it's really great just to get to read to you guys. And I see a lot of awesome ideas. So you should mainly just write about or learn about whatever you're passionate about. Mm-hmm. That will carry you far.
Yeah, so thank you all so much for being here. Lots of good ideas. And Catherine's book link is in the chat, and we can put it on the Canvas page also. Catherine, did you have another way that they can get the book?
Just PALS or CYOA.com, or you can look me up online.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Lots of people writing thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you guys. Take care. Stay safe.